Spring of 2018 marked my last semester in high school. I'll be honest, it was a semester that I didn't take all that seriously. I didn't really care about my grades, and I would often skip with a couple of friends. If I remember correctly, it was a Friday when this all took place. I once again had plans to skip one of my classes. This time it was with two of my friends, who I'll call Tyler and Christian. We were all going to meet up behind the school, and from there walk to a nearby McDonald's. Now, the school typically had a few administrators and security guards outside, so to avoid them we would walk this nature trail that went through a forest just behind the school building. We would have to walk further, but in our minds that was better than being caught. So, we started our walk. We weren't even 5 minutes in when we came across this kid that I'd never seen before. Typically, I would see this as no big deal, writing it off as just another kid skipping. But this time I wasn't so sure. The kid was wearing jeans with a white t-shirt, both of which were extremely dirty. They were stained green and brown, the knees of his jeans especially, and his hair was full of leaves and dirt. It genuinely looked like the kid had been rolling around on the ground. As we got closer, Christian recognized him as one of the lower classmen and struck up a conversation. I quickly picked up on how out of breath and nervous the kid seemed. He kept glancing over at me and Tyler. It felt like he was almost suspicious of us. Christian eventually asked what he was doing out here and why his clothes were so dirty. He responded saying he was skipping, but like the whole school day. This didn't exactly explain why he was so dirty, but okay. Tyler jumped in, jokingly stating how it looked like he'd been camping out here. All of us started laughing. Well, all of us except for the kid. He just stood there, now with an almost angry look on his face. He then started looking around, before looking back at us and saying, "Hey, do you guys want to see something?" We all sort of hesitantly agreed. That's when the kid lifted his shirt to reveal a handgun tucked under his waistband. All of us instinctively took a couple steps back. At this point, I really felt in danger. This was the first time in my life I'd seen a real gun in person. That's when Christian spoke up. "Dude, what are you doing? Where'd you get that?" The kid pointed down the trail behind him, explaining that he found it. Christian said he probably should just ditch it and get out of here. I was not at all expecting what the kid said next. "I don't think you guys understand. I'm about to be in a lot of trouble." Something about the way he said it was extremely unsettling. Me, Christian, and Tyler all looked at each other. They didn't have to say anything. I knew exactly what we were about to do. Without warning, the three of us turned and ran as fast as we could off the trail and into the forest. We ran through dense trees for a good 5 minutes until we reached the school parking lot. I will never forget the sight we were met with. There were police cars everywhere. We were sweating, out of breath, and terrified. None of us knew what was going on, so in the midst of the chaos, the three of us literally just each ran home. Later, we would get more information on what actually happened. Apparently, the kid was a freshman and actually had been skipping the whole day. It turns out he stole a gun from a parked car in a nearby parking lot. He then made a post online threatening the school. I don't know exactly what platform it was posted to. I never saw it myself, but from what I've heard, the post was pretty graphic and disturbing. Some students of the school would see the post and report it to faculty. From there, the school instantly went into lockdown. Police would be informed of the threats, and that's how so many of them showed up in the parking lot so quick. The kid would later be spotted exiting the nature trail and walking towards the school. From there, he would be arrested. A lot of people say the kid hadn't been taking his medication for a week or so, and that's what caused him to do what he did. But I honestly don't know. These could just be rumors. Me, Tyler, and Christian would not inform anyone that we came into contact with the kid. We all agreed that we did not want to get roped up in all of this. Looking back, based on what I now know about the kid and the threats he made, we were all in serious danger. At the same time though, a part of me feels like we stalled the kid. Had we not slowed him down, and who knows if the school could have responded quick enough. But still, this experience is one that I wish I would not have had to go through. This took place back when I was in high school. One of my good friends and I were involved in a school production at the time. There was a lot that needed to be set up, so we volunteered to work one of the night shifts to help out. We didn't have to, but the school gave the job to an older janitor, and we knew he'd appreciate the help. The school day had long been done, and it was now about 8 p.m. Me, my friend, and the janitor were working away, setting up inside the school auditorium. Eventually, my friend and I had to use the bathroom, so we exited the auditorium and started walking down the hall. Now, this hall was sort of sectioned off from the rest of the school. It never saw much use, even during the school day. Usually, the only time I'd find myself using it is to go to this specific bathroom. Anyway, the hall contains a door to a utility closet that contains the school's security camera monitors and just other general cleaning supplies. But like the hall itself, the closet saw almost no use. Yes, the school had multiple security cameras around the building, but they were never used. They were more so just for show. That being the case, the door was always left locked. But as we walked down the hallway, we noticed it was slightly open. Not enough for us to see inside, but enough for us to notice it. I mention all of this because as we passed the door and started getting closer to the bathroom, I noticed one of the school cameras on the ceiling was on. I could clearly see a small red light blinking. More disturbingly, I noticed it was just slightly moving with us as we walked, like in a way where the lens would always be facing us. When we got to the bathroom, I told my friend about it. She hadn't noticed it, but she agreed it was creepy. Needless to say, we were a bit freaked out at this point. As far as I knew, me, my friend, and the one janitor were the only ones in the building. We agreed to take a different way back to the auditorium. When we got there, we told the janitor what had happened. I was hoping he would say something like how there was another janitor that came in during the night to man the cameras for whatever reason, or some other reasonable explanation. But no, as we told him, I could see his face grow into a genuine look of concern. He said we should probably go check it out. Definitely the last thing I wanted him to say. But we agreed. We didn't really feel good about letting him go alone, so the three of us started making our way over there. As we got closer to the door, we noticed it was now completely closed. And when we got up to it and tried the door handle, we realized it was locked. The janitor knocked on the door, but there was no answer. He did have a key, but now seeing for himself that the cameras in the hallway were actually on and in use, he instead opted to call the police. We went back to the auditorium and waited for maybe 10 minutes until 2 officers arrived. The janitor would show them to the closet, while my friend and I continued to wait in the auditorium. Only about a minute passed, when down the hallway we could hear the horrific sound of yelling, followed by gunshots. This was the first time I had ever genuinely felt like my life was in danger. The both of us were frozen in fear. Neither of us knew what to do, so we did nothing. We continued to sit there, just listening. A few seconds went by, when we heard footsteps running in our direction. To our relief, it was the janitor. He told us that everything was fine, but that we needed to leave right away. We tried to get more details from him, but he wouldn't tell us anything. He escorted us to a back exit, and from there we got in our cars and each drove home. I was terrified. The whole situation felt surreal, almost like a dream. I had no idea what to make of everything. But later I would get the whole story. As it turns out, a man in his late 40s had actually been living in the closet. When police arrived and opened the door, they would find him sitting in the corner holding a firearm. They of course had to defend themselves, so shots were fired. There were no life-threatening injuries, but the man in the closet did get hit. He would then be detained as police waited for an ambulance. I guess somehow the man was able to get a key to the closet, and from the looks of it, he would spend pretty much all day and night in there. Because he had access to the cameras, this meant he could see everything that was going on in the school, even during school hours. And like I mentioned, the janitors don't really use that closet, allowing the man to go undetected for so long. How long exactly, I'm not entirely sure. I honestly don't really like to think about it. As far as I know, the police never got the guy's motives. It's possible he was just homeless and looking for a place to live, but it's also possible he had worse intentions. I mean, the guy did have a gun. But again, I don't really like to think about it. I never looked at my high school the same after that night. Fortunately, I moved and changed schools the next year. This happened a few years ago now. I was in high school at the time. I don't remember what grade, but that's not really important. It happened on a day sometime near the end of the semester. A few friends and I had plans to ditch class to play basketball outside. Close to our school's building was a full basketball court right on the edge of a forest. I still don't know if the school actually owned the court, but regardless, we would spend a lot of time over there. People could totally see us on the court and not in class, but you'd be surprised with how many people just didn't care. I think I got in trouble a total of like 1 time. If I remember correctly, there were 4 of us. We were playing 2-on-2. We had just started when a group of what had to have been 4 or 5 college kids started walking up to us. They got right near us, and then seemed surprised and started apologizing, saying how they thought we were someone else. We said it was fine. It was kind of weird though. I mean, I don't think my friends even noticed them until they said that. They then proceeded to walk directly into the forest. This was also a little strange, but they weren't threatening or anything, so we ignored it, continuing our game. This was when things took a sharp turn. What had to have been the second our game ended, all of our heads shot towards the forest. The most horrible, blood-curdling scream rang out. A couple of us, me included, ran just slightly into the forest to see if we could see what was happening. Clear as day, there were 2 giant dudes in ski masks jumping a couple of the college kids that we were just talking to, but with baseball bats. That's when one of the guys abruptly looked up at us. My heart sank. Out of fear, all of us ran back inside. I really do hate to admit it, but we didn't do anything about it. Rather, we all went back to our respective classes, giving all the excuses necessary to avoid suspicion. I still don't know how, but somehow the school must have found out about the whole situation, as the next thing we knew, the school was going into a real lockdown. Fortunately, nothing would come of the lockdown, but over the next couple of days, word would start to spread about what actually happened. Apparently, it was a drug deal gone wrong. A few of the college kids were actually sent to the hospital with pretty serious injuries, but seeing what I saw that day, this fact doesn't really surprise me. As for the guys in the ski masks, they were never caught or even identified. Even today, I still think about how that could have been us. We could have easily been misidentified as the college kids, and been even more easily jumped. I still can't get the image of that guy in a ski mask, looking up and making direct eye contact with us out of my head. For the rest of the semester, this whole situation was pretty much everything anyone talked about.